It is picked off by Aaron Crocker. Over midfield, he'll run it all the way into the end zone. Touchdown.
Croc Talk TV podcast. Peace.
Welcome to another episode of Croc Talk TV. I am your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back Eric Crocker, and on today's episode, we are kind of breaking some news. N'Keal Harry, he wants out of New England. All right, so we're going to get into all that and more. But first, if you're not already, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, Croc Talk TV. Make sure you guys hit that like button right now. All right, hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed, all that good stuff. And now, let's get into N'Keal Harry. All right. So first, who is N'Keal Harry? All right. I want to get into what kind of my scouting evaluation of N'Keal Harry is, and then I'll get into the news that broke today. All right. First, N'Keal Harry, obviously big body receiver coming out of Arizona State. He was definitely a polarizing prospect coming out. I remember initially, especially watching him during the year, I was saying to myself, this is wide receiver one. I was watching him do some things, and it's like, man, you see the contested catches, you see the big play against, I want to say it was like UTSA, where he's just weaving in and out of traffic and runs in for a touchdown. I'm like, wow, like this dude keep making play after play. And then I watched the film. All right, so initially, right away again, wide receiver one, like, wow, big, strong, powerful athlete. He can run. You see all these good traits. I watched the film, and I was like, I'm not as high on him as I initially thought I was going to be. All right, so why not, right? Start diving into things, and I started to see, like, first thing I want to look for when I'm evaluating a prospect is I want to see, like, how does this guy win, all right? Now, you see N'Keal Harry, and it jumps out to you how he wins. Again, first, I am a guy who does not watch highlights. So anybody that's been kind of following me and through my analysis and scouting and all that type of stuff, anybody that's been with me for the last few years, y'all know I don't watch highlights. So highlights make it look like these things just happen all the time. When you actually watch the film, you understand that the occurrence of maybe that big play or splash play or whatever doesn't happen throughout the entire game. So what does it look like when N'Keal Harry throughout the game? Well, I thought that he struggled a little bit to consistently create separation. All right. Now, at the line of scrimmage, his releases, like, he had no plan. A lot of times it was like these short, choppy steps. Then really, he just kind of wanted to get in position to potentially box a guy out on a 50-50 ball. Right. And if you watch those games, you kind of see how often they threw those 50-50 balls to him. It was a lot. So in the game, he might see 5 50-50 balls and catch one or two of them. And then that one or two would be like a highlight, right? And if you watch how he won on a consistent basis, definitely was not winning with routes. That wasn't something that I saw a ton. I thought he kind of lacked a little bit lateral quickness, especially at like the line of scrimmage in route. When he played against cornerbacks that were not scared of him and they were going to challenge him, he had to work for every single thing that he got, like really, literally had to work. And that's when I was like, man, like, I would like to see a little bit more like freakishness, ability, like, separation. Again, not everybody, and I can't expect a 6'4", 215-pound receiver, whatever he is. I'm not expecting him to run routes and look like Odell Beckham. All right. I'm not expecting him to look like Stephon Diggs or anything like that. But I got to see how you win, and is it consistent with you being able to win that way? And I just thought the way that he won, which was the 50-50 ball, maybe outpowering the guy, it wasn't consistent. And then what they would do was, well, let's just figure out how to get the ball in his hands. So they do screens. They do in the rounds, just little things to try to get the ball in his hand because he couldn't really free himself up. Now, they did try to move him around, play him in the slot more. That's one tip when you have a guy like him who's clearly he's a big X receiver, but he's playing in the slot a lot of times. I thought they played him in the slot to try to free him up because he struggled to kind of free himself up. So initially in my notes was like, man, I think this guy's a big slot. Now, I could be wrong because I thought A.J. Brown was somewhat of the same a little bit, but I like A.J. Brown more because they were in the same class, and I had A.J. Brown ranked way ahead of him. Now, in that class, I only did 5 receivers. I'm ashamed to mention the last 2 guys. But my first receiver, wide receiver 1, was DK Metcalf. Thought it was ridiculous that anybody had him lower than 1, 2, or 3. All right. My second receiver was A.J. Brown. Third receiver was Deebo Samuel. Now, this is when I started to get a little too cute. All right. Fourth receiver was Hakeem Butler, who I don't even know if he's still in the NFL. And if he is he a tight end or receiver? I don't know. Fifth receiver was Riley Ridley, who I do like, but gosh, is he going to get an opportunity in Chicago? It doesn't seem like it. All right, so I kind of whiffed on those. But I had N'Keal Harry even behind those guys, all right, just because I didn't like the way it looked. And so wasn't in my top 5. I was shocked to see that he was not the first, but the second receiver taken. And then even more shocked to hear that the 49ers, if the Patriots didn't take him, the 49ers were going to take him. And I'm like, whoa, I get it. Kyle Shanahan, you're able to free guys up. But the way he won, I didn't think it was going to be consistent like that. So I had DK Metcalf, A.J. Brown, and Deebo Samuel, 1, 2, 3, all over N'Keal Harry, who a lot of people like, but I think they got caught up in just the highlights and what it looked like. All right. So he goes to the NFL, and it looks like right now he's struggling a little bit in New England. Now, I'm going to read the press release from his agent. All right. But part of it is, well, he doesn't have a whole lot of targets. Well, because he wins a very specific way, it was kind of hard to see him as this high volume target guy in the first place. And one thing that his agent probably left off of this was he also was injured some, right? He missed some games. So it's not like this is a guy who's just been healthy the whole time and he only had this many targets. Now, still, clearly, ideally, you would like more than whatever he's gotten over 2 years. I think if you look at some guys like really all the other guys that were taken ahead of him, except for like Andy Isabella, they probably all have the amount of targets he has in 2 years. They've had twice as many as that, maybe even more than that. So the opportunities aren't there for him. And clearly, to me, I thought there were things that he needed to work on. Now, I'll say this to be the last thing I say before I get into his agent's comments and then potential top 5 landing spots where I think he would fit in. But you can improve on your weaknesses, right? So like me evaluating him, there has to be some level of projection with him, right? So when you look at who he is and there were things that I didn't care for, it's like, well, can you improve those things? I think you can. And he can learn to win the way that he wins and learn to do that on a consistent basis. There were a lot of people that were like, oh, he reminds me of Dez Bryant. And I was like, maybe 28-year-old Dez Bryant, not young Dez Bryant. Because if y'all remember young Dez Bryant coming out of Oklahoma State, dude was a monster, right? Like Dez coming out of Oklahoma State was a monster. And he missed that last year and still was a monster. Probably should have been drafted higher than what he was. Even getting to the NFL, he was a monster. And that's a guy who maybe didn't win a whole lot consistently with routes, but he was a much more explosive athlete than N'Keal Harry, in my opinion. Or I don't think they were the same type of caliber prospects at all. And I think the NFL said that too, with Dez Bryant being the 20th overall pick or somewhere around there after missing an entire junior year pretty much because he got suspended for going out to eat with Deion Sanders or some crazy stuff like that. All right. But anyways, N'Keal Harry can improve, but I was not as high on him coming out as other people. So Mike Garafolo reports statement from Patriots wide receiver N'Keal Harry's agent Jamal Toussaint, who has formally requested a trade for the 2019 first round pick. All right. Tough. I think a lot of people thought that he would be available for a trade, but it seems like his agent is the one that's kind of jumping out and doing it. All right. So for the past several months, I have been working in cooperation with the Patriots behind the scenes to put a plan in place to allow N'Keal Harry to thrive in New England. Through 2 seasons, he has 86 targets. That ain't much. He has 86 targets, which obviously hasn't met the expectations of the Patriots, and N'Keal hasn't met the expectations the Patriots and N'Keal Harry had when they drafted a dominant downfield threat who was virtually unstoppable at the point of attack in college. In college, I have some takes on that. Yes, extremely good. Yes, he was pretty dominant. But when the corner wasn't scared of him and they challenged him, it didn't look good. I mean, I should pull up. I had a whole thread on this. It didn't look great. All right. Now, Following numerous conversations with the Patriots, I believe it is time for a fresh start for both parties, and N'Keal Harry moves on before the start of training camp. So he's trying to make this happen right now because training camp is really right around the corner. This is why I have informed the Patriots today. I am formally requesting a trade on behalf of my client. N'Keal understands a key ingredient to production is opportunity. I agree. He will continue to work hard to develop and refine his craft after missing a large portion of his rookie year to injury. His draft day expectations for the NFL career have not changed. We are confident success is just around the corner for him and will aggressively pursue it. All right, so that's N'Keal Harry's agent. And, obviously his agent's job is to prop his guy up and get as many suitors as possible. Again, I was not really high on N'Keal, definitely not to the tune of him being the second receiver taken. I like N'Keal Harry, DK Metcalf more, AJ Brown, Deebo Samuel, had them all higher. Hollywood Brown, who ended up being the first receiver taken, but I liked him more. All right, so now I see some questions in the chat about what it might cost. I'm not giving up a third for N'Keal Harry, period. So this is Michael's comment right here, Michael Montez. I ain't giving up a third round pick for N'Keal Harry. That ain't happening. All right. Not a guy who has been hurt. I wasn't already high on him like that. So I would have taken him like third round. Really, that was kind of more how I felt about him. Or maybe late second round. Late second, depending on who was on the board. If DK Metcalf was on the board, like which he was, like the last pick in the third or second round, no way he's going for N'Keal Harry. We still think that was crazy. All right. But let's get into some landing spots. All right, these are my top 5 landing spots for where I feel like he can be some type of fit, or maybe these guys need receiver help. All right, and there are some really help needy teams out there that need some receivers. All right, so I'm gonna start at number 5. 49ers. All right, that's number 5. Now I know a lot of 49er fans want them to look into it right now. Right? Like, no, get on the phone right now. And it's like, I don't think the 49ers are overly pressed to look into N'Keal Harry. You look at the 49ers and kind of what they got going. You got your number 1 and your number 2 guys in Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. Like, those are your guys, and you're building on your young, athletic, explosive receivers. And then outside of them, you have George Kittle, who's your number 1 target on your entire roster. So now the 49ers are really kind of looking for can we get a guy that just kind of fills in? Right? Can we get a guy that just kind of can fit in and be productive? And then you have guys on the roster right now who I feel do that. And that's I feel you got Mohamed Sanu. All right, you got the veteran guy. You kind of know what you're getting from him. I think he'd be, just fine there. You have Richie James. Is he going to bring you some level of consistency or whatnot? We'll see. And then there's guys that, have been hurt or is still young. Jalen Hurd, Juwan Jennings. And they kind of bring you similar aspect to their game as N'Keal Harry. Not exactly the same. I think he's a better 50-50 ball catcher than Jalen Hurd. But just looking at the 49ers roster doesn't all the way fit, but I do think that 49ers were high on them coming out. Again, if the Patriots didn't draft N'Keal Harry, the 49ers were drafting him over Deebo Samuel. I would have said that was a mistake, but that's what they were going to do. All right, so maybe they still like him. Maybe they still see the potential. Maybe N'Keal Harry just hasn't had the opportunities like his agent said, and the 49ers think, look, this is a high-level talent guy, and look, we'll shoot over a 4th-round pick, see if they want that, or conditional pick, see if he even makes the roster or whatnot. We give him some type of opportunity to battle it out with Richie James, Mohamed Sanu, Jalen Hurd, Juwan Jennings, all those guys, even other guys like Kevin White, River Craycraft, all these other guys. And you just see, like, can he carve out his own role? Can he be what Kendrick Bourne was to the 49ers? I think that's a lot of asking on a guy to kind of really pick up this Kyle Shanahan offense in a short period of time. But I still think that if there is a situation where he can kind of carve out a role, 49ers don't have a 50-50 catch guy, he definitely can be that type of guy. Maybe start as being more of a red zone threat guy that they kind of force potentially, and then start to work on everything else. I can see that potentially being the case. We'll see. So at number 5, I had the 49ers as a top landing spot for N'Keal Harry. All right, real quick, before I get into number 4, I'll start to look a little bit at some of the questions in here. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. If you aren't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go ahead right now. If you can, hit that like button right now. Hit that like button right now. I think it helps with like the algorithms and things like that. All right. Maybe for a low draft pick, but too many meh players after Ayuk and Debo. I agree. Now, here's my pushback on this. There are too many meh players after Ayuk and Debo, but is N'Keal Harry meh as well? All right. It's a question we got to ask ourselves. Rather have Hurd than Harry. I would, in theory, I like Hurd more, but Hurd hasn't played in 2 years. He had the back injury. He had the ACL. So I think if you just told me, hey, you got to pick one or the other, I would pick N'Keal Harry. Here's another one. I'd rather have Hurd too, but he's never available. That's the big issue. All right. As the big body third option, but don't want to get hopes up. I can see that. Brian Carter, what up, baby? All right. So let's get into, I'll look at one more question. All right. Here we go from Raymond Martinez. Maybe a conditional fifth and turn it into a fourth if he misses conditions. I could see something like that, and I wouldn't mind giving up something like that. I think that's fine, right? That'll work. All right, so real quick, let's get into my number 4 team, which kind of surprised me when I started kind of looking through some rosters and looking at receivers, and I didn't expect to put this team down, but the Tennessee Titans. Now, I know that it sounds crazy because you got A.J. Brown. He's a rising star in the NFL. You got Julio Jones, still a top 5 receiver in the NFL for sure. I just was listening to PFF, and they just talked about how Julio Jones, his miles per hour that he's hitting has not dropped over the last few years. So 31 years old, about to be 32 or whatever, he's still an explosive receiver. All right, so A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, and then after that, Josh Reynolds. And then there was like some other guy. I mean, like, you got A.J. Brown, you got Julio Jones. Imagine if they didn't land Julio Jones. Like, who the hell would be Tennessee's receivers outside of A.J. Brown? Like, yeah, it's not looking good over there in Tennessee. So I was not expecting this put Tennessee as a top 5 team, but they definitely land here at number 4 because after A.J. Brown and Julio Jones, who are terrific, you got Josh Reynolds. That's it. So I think he can be a guy that goes there. Not the fit. He ain't Julio. He ain't A.J. Brown. But he's kind of like poor man's version. I guess you can say like, you know, it's not like he brings you something, a different element than they do. Matter of fact, they do everything he does, but do it better. So, I mean, I just don't, I don't see the fit there. I see the fit in the sense of they don't have depth at receiver. And they could potentially bring him in. But in the sense of like who he is and if he brings a different element, like with the 49ers, we know N'Keal Harry brings an element the 49ers don't have. They don't have that big physical, go up and get it guy. Tennessee, they have some guys like that, but their depth is just trash. All right, so that's number 14. Number 3 team, another team I just really did not expect to have to put on here, but the New Orleans Saints. Like the New Orleans Saints, you look at their receivers. All right, you got Michael Thomas. All right, great. I mean, we know he's a walking 120 catches as long as he's healthy. Last year, he missed some time with the high ankle sprain. All right, but New Orleans Saints, Michael Thomas, Tre'Quan Smith. I think Tre'Quan Smith benefits a lot just from being in that offense with Drew Brees and it kind of being wide open and throwing the ball around. I don't even have Jared Cook on here as an option, but obviously like he's going to eat up some targets, but after Tre'Quan Smith, who's solid, what do the Saints have? Marquez Callaway? I didn't even know who Marquez Callaway was until I was watching Georgia against Tennessee from 2019, and I was watching Eric Stokes, do my evaluation on him, and he was kind of whooping Eric Stokes a little bit. And I'm like, man, who is this guy? So I had to Google the 2019 roster from Tennessee. Who is number 1? Okay, Marco. Okay, Saints undrafted. Like, who is it? Because now I'm looking at it like Stokes. Why are you getting ate up by an undrafted guy? All right, like you know what I'm saying. But again, after Michael Thomas, after Tre'Quan Smith, who is decent, you got Marquez Callaway and Lil Jordan Humphrey. And yes, his name is Lil Jordan, like Lil Jordan, like apostrophe Jordan from Texas. I'm pretty sure you guys remember him, but he's another guy. I don't even think he was drafted. If he was a late round draft pick. So the Saints, because they're so good, you don't look at them as like, oh, this team that's just a wide receiver needy. But shoot, you start looking at their roster and who they have, and you got Michael Thomas, and then after that, it's really slim with no type of real upside. And you have Jared Cook, who you could throw the ball to. I think I saw a Jared Cook thing. I thought Jared Cook got traded. If Jared Cook got traded or released, then they're really hurting. They're really hurting, right? And he may have, but that would be tough because now you got Michael Thomas and Tre'Quan Smith, and that's it. Really, like as far as people that you can like have high hopes for or high expectations for. All right. I do see somebody, where's it at? Right here, Jameis. All right. Saints sound like a good option for Harry. Jameis throwing YOLO balls. He give him those opportunities. And sometimes it takes a quarterback like that. Okay, Jimmy Garoppolo. One of Jimmy Garoppolo's issues have been throwing the ball downfield. Right. And I think a lot of it has to do with just confidence, like having the confidence that, look, I'm going to throw this ball downfield. I'm going to let it rip, and I'm just going to throw it in the spot where I know my guy's going to go get it. Having the confidence, right? Like anything in life, things that you are confident with doing, you do extremely well. Things that you have to, you're like, oh, I'm kind of second guessing myself. You don't do it as well, right? I did the same thing with Jimmy Garoppolo's deep ball right now. So N'Keal Harry might not be a good fit for Garoppolo with, the throwing the deep ball or 50-50 balls and whatnot. But Jameis Winston, he don't care about none of that. He's going to let it rip. So I think that's more incentive for I think that's even more incentive for N'Keal Harry to look at Saints as a place where he can fit. Or the Saints look at him like, look, we got this type of quarterback. I think this matches up with what N'Keal Harry is. Kimura is the number 2 wide receiver. I can see that. He definitely eats up a lot of targets, but I think a lot of it is, goddamn, he has to. Now, he's going to get his regardless. What do you have? 3 straight years at 81 catches? And then, he continues to have a ton of catches, but he's definitely an option out of the backfield. Jared Cook signed with the Chargers. All right. And that's a good fit. That's a good fit for the Chargers. That is a good fit. Cook is kind of good, man. A little bit. I don't want to say he's underrated, but does anybody look at him like a top tight end? He's never mentioned with the other guys, but I feel like every time I watch him, he's balling. But he ain't mentioned with the Wallers and the Kittles and Kelseys and Andrews out there. Like he ain't mentioned with none of those dudes. It's just like, Cook, and he's always just doing his thing. I'd have to look up his numbers, but it seems like he should be somewhat successful because he's always balling. All right. So just to kind of recap again, the first 3 teams I mentioned. At number 5, landing spot for N'Keal Harry, the 49ers. Do they want to throw him into that group of guys where they don't know exactly who any of them are, right? Outside of Ayuk and Debo, right? But he also brings an element to the 49ers receiving core that they don't have right now, which is big body, physical, 50-50 ball type guy. They don't have that. Could potentially be a goal line threat, right? So that's at number 5. Number 4, Tennessee Titans. Outside of A.J. Brown and Julio Jones, Josh Reynolds, and then some other guys where I didn't even bother putting them down there. All right. Number 3, New Orleans Saints. Got Michael Thomas. You got Tre'Quan Smith. He's there. We'll see. All right. Then you got some other guys who, again, Marquez Callaway. What do you have, like 21 catches as a rookie? Lil Jordan Humphrey. All right. Then now, the number 2 team, Houston Texans. They got Brandon Cooks, who's coming off another 1,000-yard season. You guys can answer this if you guys want, but is Brandon Cooks not the most underrated receiver in the NFL? People name these other guys as saying they're underrated, but truly underrated. Brandon Cooks is a walking 1,000-yard receiver every single year. It's like every year he's a 1,000-yard receiver, and nobody talks about him. They talk about him as if he's just this, like, he's always hurt. He's always having concussions, yada, yada, yada. But when you look at the number of games he's missed, he ain't missed many games, and every year he's getting 1,000 yards. So there's like 1 year he hasn't out of the 6 years he's been playing. So, for somebody that, like, produces so much, he gets talked about, and he's young. Cooks is young. I ain't just defending him because he's from Stockton, that's the little homie. But Cooks been doing his thing for a while now, and it feels like nobody talks about Brandon Cooks. Got to be the most underrated receiver in the NFL, right? Because he does not get talked about at all. All right, so they got Brandon Cooks, got Randall Cobb. Cobb is aging a little bit. He's more of a slot. And then outside of that, Nico Collins, the rookie out of Michigan, like, I don't know. Houston is in a little bit of trouble. All right, so you got Brandon Cooks, you got Randall Cobb, and Nico Collins. I think that's definitely somewhere he can fit. Now, here's the thing. N'Keal might need a good, support system, right? Like, he might need a situation where he can kind of come in and, maybe not be forced to live up to those high expectations, but have a quarterback in play, have a good offensive system in play, maybe a little bit more of an established situation. We'll see. Will he get that with the Texans? Feels like that head coach might be out right away. I don't know, but I don't really like the culture that the Texans have going on right now, especially with the whole weird situation with Deshaun Watson. Do y'all think Deshaun Watson is going to play this year? That's another thing to kind of watch for. I have no idea. All right. Now, for the number one team, any guesses for the number one team that I think N'Keal Harry should go to? And I really feel like it would be a good spot for him in the sense of just what he presents to the team and where they're at currently with their receiver depth, maybe the quarterback that they have in play there. I think it's somebody that can definitely help him. All right, I'm looking at the chat right now. I see the Raiders. I see the Packers. I see Detroit, Panthers. Okay, Panthers. Who else? We got? What we got, man? What we got? Green Bay. Okay, got a couple Packers now. Real quick before I get this answer, Saskatchewan Roughriders says send them to the CFL. I hear you. Make sure you guys, if you're not already, subscribe. All right, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you haven't already, hit that like button right now. All right, Croc Talk TV. But here we go. See a few Ravens rolling in. Green Bay. Okay, I'm gonna go with Detroit Lions. And the reason why I see the Detroit Lions as a good fit for him is because I think that's a situation where he can come in and be a guy that gets high volume targets right away. All right, so you got Tyrell Williams. Well, we'll see. He can play, but he's not somebody that I feel like you're committing to long term in any way at all. All right, you got Brashad Perryman, definitely not committing to him long term at all. And then you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, and that's it. Amon-Ra St. Brown. So you got Tyrell Williams, Brashad Perryman. And then you got St. Brown, who will likely be a slot. I think he can move around a little bit, but, that's it. Now, I do like the fact that Jared Goff is there. And I know Jared Goff gets this really bad rap, but I think Jared Goff, if you're looking for someone who can at the very least help this young receiver, I think Jared Goff is that guy. And I think that's a good fit. Jared Goff, he doesn't suck. We're talking about somebody who can throw for a lot of yards. Well, if he's throwing for a lot of yards, he has to be throwing to somebody. And it ain't going to be Tyrell Smith, Perryman, and St. Brown definitely will help being young. As far as guys that they really have high expectations for and guys that maybe have high upside, I think that's a scenario right there where N'Keal Harry can land and do well. All right, so yeah, I like what Ben says here. No pressure on Harry to do too much. Low expectations would make a ton of sense to give an unconfident player that opportunity. I agree. So real quick, my top 5 landing spots for N'Keal Harry. At 5, I had the San Francisco 49ers. He brings a different dynamic to the team to the receiving core that they have right now. They don't have a big body guy. They don't have that 50-50 catch guy. They don't have a red zone threat. But again, he gets matched in there with the likes of Jalen Hurd, Juwan Jennings, Mohamed Sanu, Richie James, River Craycraft, Kevin White, all those guys. All right. At number 4, I had, let me see. Hold on, bring my list back up. At number 4, I had the Tennessee Titans. They got A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, and then Josh Reynolds. All right. Not saying Josh Reynolds is trash or anything like that, but I'm saying like he doesn't really move the needle. All right. And then at 3, we had the New Orleans Saints. They got Michael Thomas, Traquan Smith, and then that's pretty much it. Marquez Callaway, we'll see. Lil Jordan Humphrey. At number 2, Houston Texans. They got Brandon Cooks, Randall Cobb, and Nico Collins out of Michigan. And then number 1, Detroit Lions, Tyrell Williams, Shad Perryman, and St. Brown. And if I'm him, I don't want to go to Houston because I don't know what the hell's going on with that quarterback situation there. Please send me to Detroit. Again, like Ben said, low expectations, opportunity to really be a guy to come in, get a lot of targets. I think Jared Goff will really help, and I think that would be the ideal landing spot for him. All right. Now, I'm going to open up the floor now. So if anybody wants to come on, feel free. All right, here we go. Do you think this would fit on the Rams? What's up, Keith? Yeah, I think the Rams and the Rams too. One, they got the draft capital, which it sounds like they probably will because I don't think it would be a lot to get them. All right, so they definitely can make a move for them. I would say you got Cooper Kupp. You got Robert Woods. I like tight end. They still got Everett, right? Seems like guys like moved around this offseason. And I don't. It's like I missed it or something. But Everett still on tight end for the Rams. Outside of that, they don't have that much, huh? Who else do they have? Let's pull it up right now, real quick, y'all. Let's pull up the Rams roster, right? Because I mean, obviously, like you have Cooper Kupp. And you have Robert Woods, but then outside of that, not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. Let's see. I think Everett doesn't see it. Wow. See. I mean, these dudes are moving it now. I don't even be knowing. All right. So you got Everett that's in Seattle. Damn, that's kind of scary. He's kind of good. He's a good receiving tight end. I hate the Seahawks. All right, here we go. So let's pull them up here. So you got Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Van Jefferson, Deshaun Jackson, Tutu Atwell. Rams ain't a good spot. Rams are not a good spot. They got too much, man. They got too much. Come on. Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Van Jefferson, Tutu, Deshaun Jackson. I'm interested to see how this all works out. Then they got some other guys, J.J. Koshki, Ben Sharonanak, Nsimba Webster. I haven't heard of any of those guys. I can't even really pronounce their names, but Jeremiah Hadel. I haven't heard of him. Landon Akers. Haven't heard of him either. So I haven't heard of those guys, but I understand how it is to kind of be the no-name guy on the roster when somebody's looking through it. Who the hell is Eric Crocker? He won't be here long. Kemp body. All right, again, I put the link in the chat. Anybody wants to jump on, I'll take a few more questions in here. Appreciate y'all coming in here and rapping with me a little bit. The Lambs don't have any depth. Hey, man, I thought originally I thought they didn't, but it turns out the Rams do, Ray. It turns out the Rams do have some depth there. And when we say depth, they know who their 1 and 2 are, right? They know they got Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. Those are their guys. So now it's just, who's going to be the third guy to kind of play off of them? And I think they probably have a lot of high hopes for Van Jefferson, at least to be able to be that third guy. Then you got your speedster, Deshaun Jackson, and you got Tutu. So now I think they're good. I think they're good depth-wise. Rams receivers seem to have a hard time staying healthy. That is true. And you look at a guy like Deshaun Jackson, he's kind of dealt with some injuries recently. I feel like Robert Woods has been fairly healthy. Cooper Kupp has been a little up and down with the health. Now, $7 million a year for KB was too much for the Niners. That was a little bit. Now, this is how you got to look at it too, because you got to look at the way these contracts are constructed. KB only has $7.5 million guaranteed, on this contract. So it's not like we're not talking about Kendrick Bourne just getting a ton of money to where it's hard to move off of him. I mean, you're talking about $7.5 million years. That might as well be a 1-year contract if we're being honest with how the NFL works. I'm pretty sure they gave him that $7.5 million up front, and now it's like now they're kind of I don't want to say they're playing with house money, but if he's good over the next 3 years, great. If he's decent, cool. Got him for the low. It's not like they paid a whole lot of money for him, but if Kendrick Bourne was on the Patriots in 2 years, I wouldn't be surprised just because of how the business of the NFL is. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm a big Jalen Hurts fan. He's extremely dynamic and an absolute matchup nightmare. What are your expectations from him if he's 100% healthy this season? Man, Jalen Hurts, man, like I agree. One thing about Jalen Hurts that I think is extremely underrated, man, his route running. For how big he is, this is a big dude, 6'5", 230 pounds. Like, that's a big receiver. Not the fastest of guys, but I think his initial acceleration is really good, but he's extremely fluid for his age. I mean, for his size. So when you look at somebody like him, the way he can kind of drop his hips and get in and out, he has good feet. Like, those things are really, really cool to see. Is he a big slot? Is he an outside receiver? Is he in the X? I don't know, but clearly Kyle Shanahan figured out a way to free him up, and we got to see that one preseason game, and then that was it, man. So that is tough. That is tough. We'll see. It's hard for me to have expectations for someone who has missed the last 2 years. Like, he has not played a game since being in college, dealt with some really bad injuries too. I mean, your back, then the ACL. So I have no expectations for him. Let's see. Okay. Well, the 49ers regret not bringing back KB. So I'm pretty sure that's what the response was to the the other person was responding to this. When you look at Kendrick Bourne and what he was, I think he gave you a sense of stability, right? At the end of the day, right now, we're hoping, man, I hope Brandon Ayuk plays a whole 17-game season, or I hope Deebo Samuel plays a whole 17-game season. You didn't have to hope for Kendrick Bourne. You just knew he was going to be out there. Now, he had a drop here and there, but I thought overall for his role and kind of what he was, I thought he did a great job of being that and what his role was. Was he a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2? No, wasn't that. But was he a guy that on any given day could give you 6 catches for 75 yards? Yeah, he can. And you knew he was going to show up. So I think that's what they'll miss more. I think he just brings you more stability than what the 49ers have had from the other guys who they are expecting more out of. Ooh, really excited to see, and this is from Hindi. Sorry if I butchered your name. I should have just not said anything. But really excited to see Kupp and Stafford this year work their magic. That I'm not excited to see it. I am because I want to see Matthew Stafford win. He's been a guy who feel like the way he's talked about like his talent. Have you guys seen those tweets where it shows like talent, recognition? I think his talent and recognition are both really high. One's not lower than the other, but I think for people viewing him as like an elite quarterback, which I think he is from a talent perspective and kind of some of the things that he can do, I think this is the first time he have a real opportunity to really showcase that. All right, but let's bring on our first guest. What's up, man? What's up, Ben? What's good?
Oh, sorry. I just finished my workout, man. I was trying to make sure I made it in here. I was listening to your stream last week, and I just missed you when you were leaving, so I'm glad I got you today.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I was all in the comments talking about N'Keal Harry earlier. I guess my thing with him from the Niners perspective is, do you think there would be enough targets for him? Like if he were on this team in 2021, how many targets do you think he would get?
So, I don't even think he needs a ton of targets. Just can he be Kendrick Bourne? Now,
gotcha.
What are you using to get him? Right? I mean, if you're talking about, and I saw some people throw around a conditional 5th round pick or potentially a 4th, I think you can utilize him as really that 3rd receiver, 4th option. I think you're fine with that. If you have to invest any more than that, and I'm not just saying it from the 49ers standpoint, but any team, if you have to potentially invest more to get him because maybe there's potentially a bidding war or whatever the case might, you never know. I think from that standpoint, you might want to be in a position where you can force him to rock a little bit more and maybe focus a little bit more on him, maybe have some game plan things for him. But I think with the 49ers, you look at the 49ers, weapons and offense and who they have, can you replace Kendrick Bourne's production? And can you be a guy that gets 43 catches, right? Can you give me 43 catches and 5 touchdowns? And I think from that standpoint, that would be a win for the 49ers. And again, bring a different aspect to the receiving core that they just don't have. So I think that's the big thing too, where it's like he brings something completely different than anybody else on this roster. Even George Kittle, I don't think he's a great contested catch guy.
Right. And I don't feel like they have any like really legit red zone receiving threats like that. I mean, not that I guess N'Keal Harry would be, but like you're saying, he adds a dynamic that the 49ers don't really have right now. And I guess so, like, are you saying that you think like, you know, a team like Detroit, like you were talking about earlier, like we were talking about in the comments, I feel like they would be willing to give up a 4th rather than a 5th, you know, if it's a bidding war. A team like that, like, right? Like, or the Texans, like you were talking about, a team who is talent deprived right now, who just kind of needs any way they can get an inflection of any sort of NFL talent on the roster right now.
And not just getting talent on the roster, but also instilling some type of faith into the fan base, right? Like, you know, these teams, these front offices, they try to play into the fans' hands a little bit as well. Whereas, like, look, we want to bring you this new shiny toy, right? And any team that N'Keal Harry goes to, there is going to be a pretty good level of optimism from the fan base that gets him. Even 49ers, I mean, I could say all this down the other right now about how I wasn't really high on him, but if he came to the 49ers, like, I'd be excited about that, to see what he does. And I think any team, that's another thing that you're paying for as well. So it's not just a 4th round pick for somebody that, you know, possesses some level of talent that we might want to get out of them, but also how it kind of feeds into the fan base and the excitement that it could potentially bring to a team.
So I guess my next question for you would be, and I was commenting, I think, about this earlier. I think like corner and edge are 2 positions I would be more interested in investing something in, at least long term. So I guess I know there's not a specific player like that would be available right now, but I feel like as we get closer to the season, to the trade deadline, more guys are going to become available who aren't right now. So I guess if you could fill any position on the 49ers or add another position with like what people are talking about right now, where it's like a conditional 4th or a conditional 5th or something like that, is there like one position you're looking at, or do you think it might just be, you know, a younger player who might fit with the team long term?
Yeah, I think right now with the way the 49ers roster is constructed, you kind of have to play like wait and see. I think if I had to choose one position, if you put a gun to my head and was like, all right, you have to pick a position, I'd probably say cornerback, because in theory, I like the thoughts of Ambry Thomas and Diamador Lenoir, but just looking at the cornerback depth as is right now, if you lose Mosley or you lose Verrett, it gets a little weird, right? It gets a little tricky. Right. Now, again, one of those guys step in, if they play well, great, got our guy for the next 4 years. But if they don't, you're looking at this cornerback position and it's like, man, it's a little lean. I feel more confident with even like the edge rushing position. Yeah. Brian Peacock and I were just on Locked On 49ers last night. We recorded so you guys can see it right now, that episode, Locked On 49ers. And we talked about the change in the 49ers scheme and kind of what's going on with that whole thing. And if you look at it, I never really understood exactly why they kept Arik Armstead at defensive end. Like, man, he's not a great pass rusher. Like, you know, obviously we saw a season where he had double-digit sacks, but that's not exactly who he is. He seems like he fit more in the interior. But then I'm listening to a podcast on PFF, and what they're talking about is a lot of these teams are going more towards too high. I don't know if you guys see my hands. They're going more to too high. I talk with my hands a lot. All right, so they're going to more too high defenses, cover 4 quarters, you know, those type of things. And the reason why is because they want to take away those big boot and play actions, especially like the 49ers do, right? That end up having these big bouncers behind guys. So teams are going a little bit away from single high on early downs, and they'd rather give up a little bit more rushing yards playing two highs. And so they're kind of picking their poison. Do we want to give up a deep 20-yard, 30-yard gasher in the pass game, or do we want to give up 4, maybe 5 yards on a run play? Well, let's give up the 5 yards on a run play. But if we have a big body in like Arik Armstead there that can control the line of scrimmage, that can control the edge, yes, he's not a great pass rusher, but we have this guy here that can control things a little bit more on the outside in the run game, where we are a little bit more vulnerable because we have that extra safety back there. So that's when Eric Armstead makes sense. So if you look at it from that standpoint, as somebody that's probably going to stay in that style of role and play that type of role for the 49ers, well, now you have a Ebukam or Ekub.
Right.
I always butcher his name. You have him.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see what's up with D Ford. I don't know. Just like Jalen Hurd, there are a lot of people like, what's the optimism on him?
Right.
I
But
don't know.
I feel like more than anything that defensive line next year, it's going to be more like rotating with some of those interior guys that they got, some of those like Arden Key types, right? I feel like that's going to be like some of the interesting way. And like with the Eric Armstead thing, that makes a lot of sense to me, the way you're talking about that, how he's and I think this is something I struggled with as a football fan, especially, and like just trying to learn more about it. It's like understanding a player's role versus just watching, and looking at how many sacks he's getting.
Right.
And I feel like that's a huge thing with him. And I think really the only problem with Eric Armstead right now is how much money he's making. That's kind of the issue right now.
Right, are you getting paid $17 million to be a run-stopping edge guy? And maybe they value that a whole lot, or they value his versatility, right, where we can do that on obvious or more run downs, early downs, and then which 49ers, I just heard the stat yesterday, they between the 49ers and the Rams, they ran more quarters on first and second down than anybody in the league. Oh, wow. So they're definitely going more towards that style of defense. So you look at that and how he fits and from that aspect on first and second down, potentially can give you some, because he's still a freak athlete for his size, all right, potentially can give you some pass rush ability. But then, all right, let's slide him inside, and then we have our main maybe speed edge rushing types, which ideally that's how we look at it, right? Like we want the guy that's really speedy, edgy, bendy, coming off the edge. We know Armstead isn't that, but then now listening to that podcast is like, oh, okay, I see the role that they have in mind for him.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I was kind of asking you about this like the other week in your comments, and I think you answered it already, kind of, but I do want to ask you a little bit about it. What do you think? Do you think this team is going to have to invest differently in corner at some point? Because I think here's my issue that I kind of have in the future is they're going to be paying Nick Bosa a ton of money. And right now they have like the fourth cheapest linebacker room in the league. That's going to change really quickly. So I guess I just wonder about them getting or having to spend more at certain positions and maybe getting worse because of it at other places.
No, definitely, especially corner. You probably want to invest there. It seems like their mindset has been invest a lot into the front end and then do patchwork on the back end. I think they are kind of finally, and if you kind of look at how they're set up on, at all levels, I think now more than any other time, they are a little bit more likely to invest a little bit more on the back end early on, because you have your young front right now. Right, you have Armstead, he's going to be around still. You got Kinlaw, you got Bosa. Linebacker, you're always going to be set with Fred Warner. You got Greenlaw and Al-Shaair who are good, solid. They can play. Greenlaw, decent starter. Al-Shaair, like, all right, like good depth piece at linebacker. So now it's like, okay, this is, and you just went O-line. Now, you picked up the fifth-year option for McGlinchey, so he's going to be there. Maybe center, but you're not investing a whole lot into a center position from draft standpoint. So you kind of look at the way the roster is, drafted your running backs, you got your quarterback, got these young receivers. Secondary is the only position that they haven't really invested high picks in. Now, depending on the way they want to go with it, I'd assume corner is maybe a position that they would prioritize if the value of the prospect meets. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to reach for a corner in the second round just because we haven't drafted the corner in the second round. But I think if it meets the value of that player, and obviously if 49ers don't have first round picks for the next couple of years, I think you could see them go corner or potentially safety, because you look at them right now and they're probably, after this year, is Tartt going to be there? You're going to have Ward. It's going to be a year older, 30 years old, right? Getting a little bit older. Tartt probably won't be there. You got Marcel Harris. We'll see. They still haven't gave him a lot of opportunities. Then they just start signing guys off the street. So we'll see what happens with Tarvarius Moore. I mean, he just ruptured his Achilles, and now he's going for the year. So I think safety is a position, safety or corner, if I had to bet money, they prioritize those positions next year. We'll see how high they go with it, and if the opportunity kind of presents itself to really go after a guy, because, draft board falls funny sometimes, right? I remember in the Kinlaw draft, I would have, loved to have C.J. Henderson or Jeffrey
C.J.
Okudah.
Henderson.
They were both taken in the top 10. So it's like, well, you can't. So are you going to draft A.J. Terrell just to draft him there? Because, you know what I'm saying? Like, so that's where they kind of
I was looking at I was actually exactly looking at that the other day. I was looking at the draft board and I was like, is there really a spot where they could have gone differently? And like, besides the Tristan Wirfs one, and I think you've even talked about this before, like the fit was kind of weird with Wirfs. Besides him, like, I don't really know who else they may have picked there at that spot. Like, and going back to what you were saying about corner, how like it presents the right opportunity has to be presented. The one issue I kind of do have is the Asante Samuel Jr. pick, because he was sitting right there, man.
Yeah.
And I'm at FSU. I'm about to graduate from FSU next year. I was getting really excited when I saw him coming up on the board. So I was a little bummed out by that. But I mean, I get the Aaron Banks pick. He makes a lot of sense just to help the pass production. I mean, especially next to McGlinchey. I think they desperately needed help in pass pro.
So I was looking at that when the 49ers are on the clock in the second round, or about to be on the clock until they trade it out. I'm like, you got to take Terrace Marshall right here. Got to take Terrace Marshall. Now, if not for Terrace Marshall, then 100% I'm taking Asante Samuel. But I just had, if I had created a big board, Terrace Marshall would have been higher on my big board. And I still feel, just like I said with N'Keal Harry, right, brings a different aspect element. I think Terrace Marshall, I got him way over a guy like N'Keal Harry, because he brings you the route perspective. He brings you the versatility, being able to line up inside, outside, be a vertical threat from all areas. I thought his 50-50 balls, contested catches was tremendous. Yeah. Like, that was a guy, he had the 4.3 speed. Like, that's a guy who can stretch the field for you, do all these different things for him. It's like, man, give me that guy to be able to play off of Debo, Ayuk, and Kittle. And I thought, like, that makes it to where it's like, your offense is crazy scary. And it makes it to where I'm trying to figure out what you have in Debo and what he's going to be moving forward. And maybe you don't have to be so desperate to bring him back if you don't have, So I was a little upset that they didn't go Terrace Marshall.
Yeah. Well, and I will say Terrace Marshall or Diami Brown were two guys who I would have loved there. I thought Terrace Marshall could have been like Kendrick Bourne plus on this team, the best version of him. But I real quick with Terrace Marshall, did you hear anything about the medicals with him? Because I'd heard a few things from some people, but I don't really know what the deal with that was.
I didn't hear about anything like that up until like right around the draft, or maybe when he kind of was slipping a little bit. I don't even want to say slipping because he went second round, and if somebody told me like you can get drafted, I'd be like, all right, I can see him going second round. But yeah, I heard something about, and I don't even know what, but there was someone saying some lingering issues or something that could potentially make him drop. He played the year, opted out when he was ready. They didn't say it was due to any injuries or anything like that. He participated at his pro day. He ran in the 4.3s. So I don't know what injuries they're talking about. He seemed fairly healthy.
Yeah.
Played the whole year before, put up 13 touchdowns as a sophomore. Like, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, and hey, his offensive coordinator that was at LSU went out and picked him. So he's got to have a lot of confidence in him. So, that's kind of where, like, I saw that sort of thing with the medicals, but I'm like, man, I feel like Joe Brady would know if anyone, right? So I thought that was.
They all knew, because everybody had to get the medical checks and everything, so they knew about it. But it was just, are we going to pull the trigger, or do we believe in, whatever the case is? And sound like Terrace Marshall. I don't know. I heard like a little whispers up, not from anybody. Just on social media or something, somebody bringing it up. I saw a little here and there, but I haven't heard anyone else talk about it on any maybe draft podcast I listened to at that time. I don't remember hearing anybody talk about it, just kind of little things here and there on social media.
Yeah, and I saw that same sort of thing. No real like substance and stuff, but people were like, when he was dropping, it was like, oh, maybe it's because of something like this. I guess one last question for you, if you don't mind.
Of course.
So with Trey Lance, I'm kind of been like a big proponent of the idea that they should try and get him to play as early as possible, especially with Jimmy's high cap number and just where the team is right now. I don't think they're going to win a Super Bowl this year. So my perspective is I want to get the kid as much experience as possible. But I guess with him, specifically with football, in terms of football in the red zone, how do you think he's going to change the dynamic of the offense, and specifically, I guess, what Kyle Shanahan can do with it? Because I feel like, he's going to open up a lot of things, but I feel like that red zone offense, to me, I feel like that's where things get really scary. I saw a bunch of clips that I think Rich Madrid was posting of some of the RPO stuff that the Washington football team was doing with RG3 back in the day. So I guess what do you think that red zone offense is going to look like compared to the Jimmy Garoppolo red zone offense?
Oh man, it's gonna look different because he makes the defense, and we've heard Kyle Shanahan say this, and you probably heard other people say this, but he makes you play 11 on 11. All right. So if you have to now play 11 on 11 because you have to worry about the threat of this quarterback either doing a QB draw or a keep or a power or whatever it is, or have the option to fake it here. Oh, am I going to run it or throw it? Like all these different things that you can do, boots, where he has a run pass option, like, nakeds, like he gives you all these elements where with Jimmy Garoppolo, he's either dropping back and throwing it and having to throw it into a tight window, or I'm handing it off to a running back. So now with a guy like Trey Lance, yeah, you have those options, but then you have this, and this as an option as well. And it makes defenses have to defend more of the field. It's extremely difficult to defend when you're playing 11 on 11 as opposed to 10 on 11. So 49ers definitely going to have the advantage in the numbers game. We see some of these other quarterbacks. I think it's Josh Allen that's like has never thrown a red zone interception. And when I don't have to force anything because I can just take off if something's not there, I don't have to play with great timing, right? I mean, I can throw these balls here and there, and if it's open, I can put it in there. But if not, I can take off. And that's when you see guys kind of their red zone efficiency improve. Probably see the same thing with Lamar Jackson. I bet his is extremely high as well. So it's exciting for me. Now, you kind of brought up, does he play right away? And I think if it weren't for having a quarterback that they believe is a solid starter in the NFL, you would play him right away. I would say play them, and not so much because, they're not going to win a Super Bowl this year, because you never know. Like, you just never know.
Right.
And nobody has ever won a Super Bowl with a rookie, but to me, I just want to play with who gives me the best chance to win. And can I do more with this guy? So does it give me the best chance to win? Can I do more with this guy? And if those are the things, then yeah. And I mean, we'll worry about the Super Bowl when we get there. But for right now, I'm just trying to build on and make my team as dangerous as possible. And I think Trey Lance definitely helps with that.
Okay, and so I guess with Trey and that like Kyle Shanahan fit, do you think like, why do you think people were maybe thrown off the idea that the 49ers would take him? Because I know I was, and I guess the thing that stands out to me now is that, like people, I guess the knock on him was the inexperience, right? The lack of high rep games and a lot of attempts in college. But I think what I realized quickly after they took him is like, it's not like the 49ers are asking their quarterback to do a lot of, 40 plus passes, 50 plus passes anyways, right? It's kind of a funny dynamic where everyone's like, oh, they want their own Patrick Mahomes, all this stuff. They're trying to learn from the Super Bowl, when really I kind of thought afterwards, like, man, Kyle just wants to run the ball even more and make the most dynamic run offense in the league. That's kind of the impression I got.
Yeah, I like Trey Lance in the sense of, one thing I realized even being in the NFL, right? Like kind of for my time there. And not everybody loves this game. And not everybody's willing to put in a whole lot of work to be the best that they could be. So I don't know about Trevor Lawrence. You read things, you hear his dad and coach come out and say he's okay if he never wins a Super Bowl and all this, that, and the other. And I don't want to hold that against. I mean, this dude was a champion in college. Hold on 1 second, y'all. Before my wife started blowing up on my phone. All right, so my bad, y'all. So
no worries.
One thing when you look at him and you look at some of these other guys, again, Trevor Lawrence, you start to hear things. And I start to question, like, how much does he care? And maybe he does care a lot, right? I mean, he was a champion in college and whatnot, but has he faced adversity? And in college, I think Trevor Lawrence he lost 2 games. So yeah. I need to know how is he going to react in the face of adversity, because I don't know if he loves the game or if he was a winner because, I'm just good and my team is great and I'm very talented. So we won a title but how is he going to react when maybe things aren't going so great? Okay, you go to the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're changing over the culture there. Maybe it starts off and it's not great. Are you going to lose some of that love? You start getting hit around, start getting knocked, start getting hit in the mouth. I know he can played through that. I watched him do that against Ohio State in the playoff game. So I know he can play through those type of things, but is that something that he's going to be able to overcome in the NFL, losing more than he's ever lost in his life? You know, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. So when I look at that, I look at a guy like Trey Lance, and you hear everything about him willing to bet on himself in the situation, not going to Minnesota, going to North Dakota State, having to beat out a guy that they brought in to play over him from Iowa State or wherever that transfer came from, had to beat him out. Obviously, everything went ideal for him in the sense of I'm at North Dakota State, got the best team, I'm extremely talented. But, 19 years old, I factor some of that into it. Having the pressure of being out of a program like that, I put some stock into that as well. They didn't win the national title this year. They got knocked out first round of the college playoffs for the FCS level. So start looking at those things and kind of who he is. Then you hear about his work ethic and stuff. And I'm like, man, he did this at 19. He ain't going to be the same person at 21 as he is at 19 in the sense of his physical capabilities. The arm is going to get stronger. He's going to get stronger. He's going to become more accurate. Some of the issues that he had, you can improve on those things. Now, is he going to put in the work to do that? And once you find out that he's working nonstop to improve on some of the areas where he maybe wasn't as consistent, that's when you believe in a guy like Trey Lance. So I was all in. I bought in to the player that he can become. There definitely is a sense of not knowing, right? Like you're projecting a whole lot there. Oh yeah. But there was a lot to like to where I tweeted out, and this is not a homer tweet or anything, but before the draft, maybe a week before the draft, I tweeted out that if I had to put my life savings, which might not be that much, but if I had to put my life savings on any quarterback in this class to succeed, I'm putting it on Trey Lance. And I tweeted that out before the draft, not knowing he would go to 49ers or anything like that, but I just believe in that type of guy. So hopefully I'm right, but I think maybe that's what Kyle Shanahan and those guys learned about him and what they're betting on as well.
I agree on that ethic thing and the whole, like, the CEO mentality that he has. I feel like that's going to be a huge thing. And what's really funny, Croc, is like I go on Grant's channel a lot. I do my own YouTube thing, right? But I was telling Grant this. I told him this a few times. Trey Lance is 6 months younger than I am. I'm about to enter my senior year of college. It's crazy how much growth this kid has in front of him and how much time he has to be successful. So I'm fully bought in the idea that he's in a great situation and he's gonna be that guy who's gonna be willing to put in the work for it. So I definitely agree with you on like the sense of like if I had to bet on any of these kids, not necessarily even like the football talent, but like the person more than anything, Trey Lance is the person I would want to bet on.
That's a big part of it when you're picking guys at the top and they just get all this money. Look at Trevor Lawrence, right? He just signed his contract yesterday. Talking about 24 in within the next week, he's going to be getting $24 million. So, that was his signing bonus. He's going to receive that. Now, Uncle Sam takes his money, so he won't get 24. He'll get, so let's get half, a little bit more because right close about 39%. He'll probably be getting about $14 million into his account.
Maybe a little extra with those Florida taxes, but just around
there.
Maybe
a little extra with those Florida taxes, but in his account within the next week or so.
Right.
And that, I mean, how do you prepare the same when you have 24 million sitting in your bank account? Do you continue to work hard? I think Trevor Lawrence will. I know that Trey Lance will as well. So that's what I'm excited to see.
All right. Well, thanks, Croc. I appreciate it. Thanks for the time. You're so awesome at answering all the questions in the comments and everything too. So shout out to you. I've been loving the streams you've been doing recently. It's been really great, man. Thanks.
Oh man, I appreciate it. When are you gonna get me on your show?
Dude, I was about to DM you literally today, and then I saw you pop up on my YouTube. I'm like, you know what? I'll jump in if he's got the option today. So you know what? I'll DM you later today, man. Let's connect. Let's figure out a time. I'd love to have you on. Like I got a ton I want to ask you about too. So let's definitely make it happen, man.
Yeah, I saw you on Grant's show, and I'm like, ooh, I like this kid. I went to try to find you on Twitter so I can follow you just because I liked your content, and I wasn't able to find you that day. But then I saw you pop up on another day, and I quickly hit the follow button. So I appreciate it.
I I got excited when you followed me, man. I saw you, like Jason Aponte, all these different people following me. I'm feeling good, man. Like, but no. Seriously, it's like the stuff you've been putting out. Like, I've been trying to consume is more and more because I like learning about football. That's what I'm really into, and you've been doing such a great job, man. So really, thank you. And I'm like I said, we're gonna have to get together, and I'm sure I can learn a ton from you, man. So thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
All good, bro. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, you have a great day, man. Stay safe, and thanks for having me on again.
All right, yes, sir. All right, that was Ben. I appreciate him for jumping on. Anybody else want to jump on? I put the link in here. I'll get a couple more people on here. I'll give y'all about 5 more minutes, see if anybody jumps in here. If not, we'll get up out of here. But you guys have been hanging with me for over an hour now. I appreciate everybody that's been locked in. Again, if you're not already, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Croc Talk TV. Hit that subscribe button right now. Hit that like button right now. Oh, I'm going to be putting out a video, but I might as well tell you guys now. I've told other people on the live stream, but I just partnered up with Underdog Fantasy. All right, so that's Underdog Fantasy, underdogfantasy.com. They have an app. Make sure you guys download the app. If you sign up, and I will be having multiple fantasy football leagues, that's going to be really exciting for everybody to be able to be a part of. When you sign up for the app, you have to put down a minimum of $10. But if you put in promo code Crocky, all right, you get an extra $25 that they give you to mess with. And it's really cool, man. They got different player props and stuff you can wager on. You know what I'm saying? That's the words they told me to use, wager. But player props, you watching the game tonight, you got the Phoenix Suns and Milwaukee Bucks. You can do over-unders, and you can put together parlays and things like that. I haven't checked out how quick the payout is, but I heard it's instantly, but we'll see. All right, but Underdog Fantasy, if you guys do that, promo code Crocky, CROCKY. All right, but I'm going to officially put out an actual video announcing that I've partnered up with them and how I want to have some good contests and different things with you guys, involve you guys and all that good stuff. All right, so I appreciate you guys all for rocking with me. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Promo code Crocky. Yeah. All right. So the link is in there. If anybody wants to jump in, I'll answer some more questions. It looks to me like Justin Fields cannot avoid the big hit. Will be able to compete for a 17-game season. He's going to have to improve on that, right? He is somebody. He's tough. He's a big guy as well. So, yeah, he could take some shots, but we talk about 6'3", 230 pounds. He could take a little bit of that punishment as well. So I'm pretty sure a big thing that the Bears will try to do is, hey, man, learn to protect yourself. Learn to keep yourself out of harm's way. You don't got to go head up with these. Now, you ain't in the Big Ten with the linebackers. I mean, you're going to be going up against some linebackers that are 6'3", 230 pounds, run 4.3, and they will run into you and try to knock your head off. All right. Whatever Chris Paul is tonight, bet the under. Dope partnership, Croc. Big things coming. Big things coming, man. I'm excited. I'm going to put out some more stuff about what I'm doing on Underdog, have a fantasy. They got the different – I'm trying to get used to the what's it called? It's BB. It's a different kind of fantasy style where you draft a team, and then that team – it's like you draft a team, and then you can't add or change anything, but they take whoever had the best day from that position, and you have a certain amount of those, and they add up all your points, and then that's how you compete. So it's a different style, but I think it's something that's really cool. They're going to have that, and they'll have the traditional fantasy stuff too that we'll get into. All right. Man, great talking. NBA finals thoughts. I like Phoenix. I like Phoenix. I hate Phoenix. They knocked out my Lakers, but I like them in the sense of best balls. That's it. Sorry, I'm gonna get to this question. Best balls. That's it. So that's the way that we can go right now. I think what I'm gonna do is initially kind of post a couple of different contests, and we'll have different just money dollar amounts that people can sign up for. Obviously, winner. We can do winner take all, first place, second place, third place. You know what I'm saying? We can kind of play it out that way. However y'all want to do it, man, I'll get y'all feedback. Y'all the ones that be rocking with me. So I'll see how y'all want to do it. I'll create a few different leagues. We'll fill those leagues up winner take all, or whoever takes the money, all right, and we're going to make some money. But you guys get to compete against me and my fantasy football skills. But my bad, Ben. Back to the NBA Finals thoughts. Yeah, I like Phoenix. I think that they just have a little bit too many different ways that they can score, whether it's on the perimeter. I think they have too many guys that can score from the perimeter. Then you look in the inside and how Ayton's been kind of really dominating the boards and being able to get the putback and the easy buckets, the alley-oops, all those things. So I just look at them as a more complete team as opposed to Milwaukee, who is a little more one-dimensional. I mean, you have Middleton that can shoot threes, and they got a couple, but it's just not to the same extent. So it's just if Ayton starts to kind of clog the paint a little bit, I think it could be a little more difficult for Milwaukee to consistently be able to score. Now, they play good defense. They got long players and whatnot. But if I had to bet money on it right now, I'm going with Phoenix for sure. It hurts me to say that. I can't stand Chris Paul, but I do respect him. All right, man. Hey, I appreciate you guys jumping on with me. That's going to be it for today. We talked about N'Keal Harry, then we got into a whole bunch of other stuff. But again, I'll recap with my top 5 landing spots for N'Keal Harry: 49ers, Tennessee Titans, the New Orleans Saints, the Houston Texans, and the Detroit Lions. And if you want to recap on exactly why we went in depth and talked about each team and their depth, who they have at quarterback, what fits, what doesn't, what his role would be in each team. All right. But I appreciate you guys for joining me. That's going to be it for Croc Talk. Again, subscribe, like, all that good stuff. And this stuff gets put into an audio too. So it's not just here on YouTube. It's also on all the streaming or audio sites that you listen to, whether it's Apple Pods, Spotify, all that good stuff. All right. So that's going to do it. I appreciate y'all for rocking with me. Peace. I'm out.